We need that blacklist cross no jumper episode out now. I think that would be great to have a blacklist episode on No Jumper. That would be pretty cool. Good morning and good afternoon. It is Saturday, August 3rd, 2024. We hope you had a great week this week, and this is your weekly blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and please remember to smash that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop us a comment below of what you think about this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. All right. So let's get right into it with our first story. That's right, story number 1 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. The Kamala internet wipe has commenced, you guys, and we're going to watch this video. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Did Kamala Harris wipe her drug sentencing record clean from the internet? I wanted to find out how many people Kamala Harris had sent to jail for marijuana-related offenses during her time as a prosecutor. I couldn't find it on the internet anywhere, so I asked ChatGPT. I said, how many people did Kamala Harris prosecute for marijuana? It said that she handled over 1,900 marijuana-related convictions. So I asked the AI engine for sources, and each source was valid, except the one related to how many convictions her office actually handled. ChatGPT cited the Washington Examiner, and when I clicked the link, I was given an error 404, this webpage does not exist. I asked if it could provide me with some more links, and so it did. It cited PolitiFact, Democracy Now!, and Marie Claire. So I clicked the PolitiFact link. This webpage does not exist. Democracy Now!, the page you're looking for doesn't exist. Marie Claire? Sorry, error 404. Every other time that I've used ChatGPT to gain sources, the links have always worked. It's only with this specific claim, this specific piece of information, that every single source that at one time made this claim has taken their webpage down. Let me know what you think down below, and follow me here for updates.
I'm from California, and so I remember all of these different times, and yes, there were a number of people that went to jail under her tenure for cannabis. Some of those were cannabis plus other things, but there were a lot of things that were cannabis. So, you know, these numbers don't surprise me at all, and I think people should, you know, take a closer look at everything all the way around with this. And I know that there's a lot of people that are trying to say that these numbers aren't real, but show us some real proof that these numbers aren't real, you know, and it doesn't help to add anything to people's thought processes when these pages have been taken or scrubbed off of the internet, almost as if it was Hillary Clinton's hard drive. But nonetheless, let's hear what y'all have to say about this. And again, if I do happen to murder your Instagram name, I do apologize in advance. It is definitely not intentional. So let's get right into your guys' comments because, Shotwell trapping. That's right. What's up, Maddie? Hope you're having a great weekend. Says, for what it's worth, I got a signed letter from her office demanding Vallejo Police Department to return my gun to me after my dispensary raid when charges eventually got dropped. That's great news. I'm glad to hear about that. Congratulations, buddy. Ganja Love Goddess says, the local news reports the same numbers. Look up SF Examiner. Anyone that lived in San Francisco when she was DA knows that she supported and prosecuted people for simple possession while leaving the many dispensaries in town alone. This was so police could use cannabis as an excuse to harass and arrest marginalized people. Cops did not need a warrant to search you or your car or enter your home if they simply claimed they smelled cannabis. Many arrests for possession were homeless people the cops were harassing, and when you see how she got into office, holy shit. Terrence Hallinan was a progressive DA that was a vocal cannabis supporter. He beefed with the cops and mayor because he went after them for rights violations, which was unheard of. The cops used to just do whatever they wanted and got away with it. The cops and mayor ran Terrence out of office and put in Kamala because she was a typical law and order person who supported cops doing whatever they wanted. Unlike Terrence, she was very vocal in her support of the arrest and prosecution of marginalized people for cannabis. And I would say the Ganja Love Goddess, you are 100% right about that. I was in San Francisco during that time and lived there during that time, and I remember all of this just like it was yesterday. And not to mention one of the other things that Terrence was doing. Terrence was going after Willie Brown's political allies in criminal nefariousness, and Willie Brown didn't like that, and Willie Brown is actually who had her installed for the district attorney position. But nonetheless, Ganja Love Goddess also follows her last post up with saying, later, as state AG, her office fought against the release of nonviolent prisoners that a judge ordered be released due to overcrowding. They literally said they were needed for free labor for firefighting, and the state couldn't spare them, so they should stay locked up. That is true, too. I remember all of that. So, text before you call says, marijuana was illegal, so it doesn't matter. Her job was to convict people who broke the law. Just because you, I, and others see it as a harmless drug, the government did not. And until the law was changed, it was punishable. You are correct about that, too. To which Pranked My Dude responds to text before you call and says, she also said people shouldn't be in jail for marijuana and laughed when asked if she smoked it. She also kept people in jail longer over nonviolent cannabis crimes. She's one of the bad cops, in my opinion. Interesting. Ample Tree Vibe says, everything's available on Wayback Machine. Shout out to the Wayback Machine. Bimmerzile says, the issue isn't just who she locked up. It's that she kept prisoners in an overcrowded prison after the Supreme Court gave her a list of inmates who could be released. She defied the order and asked for a modification. Very true. Saved_by_MJ is also responding to text before you call, saying, I am speaking from experience. I was a non-violent weed dealer and was incarcerated. The person that came out became a maniac. I wreaked havoc on the system for many years. My conviction for selling weed prevented me from a good job, so crime became my job. Yes, there should be a punishment for breaking the law, but not incarceration with bank robbers, murderers, gang members, guns, and more violence. I was never violent until prison. It's an interesting perspective right there. State_3 says, a prosecutor charged people for marijuana in the past. That's how it was back then. I don't get it. The sheriff in my town just spoke in support of allowing our state-issued psilocybin growing license. They used to be extremely against canna and psilo, but have completely flipped their stance to align with public opinion. I think that's actually respectable and necessary to move society forward. I don't know the first thing about her, as I focus only on local politics, but don't really understand. Also, lots of people wipe their internet history. It usually just takes money and a letter from an attorney. So those are also very, very, very good points, and fair criticism. However, the problem with that State_3 is that if you look at the timeline of when she said that she consumed cannabis and listening to Tupac, that was like a decade off of when Tupac's music came out compared to when she was in college. So I think you might want to check those timelines, because I am not buying that story that she smoked cannabis listening to Tupac in her college dorm. I'm not buying that for a second, because those timelines just do not add up. But nonetheless, _Shekels says, Kamala was well known for her harsh marijuana convictions before she became vice president. It is incredible how many of you will forget this to fit a narrative. LOL Al Uvsko says, she gets the job done, laughy face. And in an up-off bow says, gonna turn into another example of claiming you'll federally legalize, decriminalize, just to gain votes, then completely abandon the idea if she gets in office. I think that may happen. Never know. Tilted_Wah says they haven't done anything to help the cannabis community in 4 years. Absolutely zero, except for a whole bunch of pandering. News at Night 7 says cops can pay to have things wiped. Anyone can. Fair enough. Fair enough. And L_LA_I says, I have a question. Don't Republicans not like weed, and isn't she a Democrat and she's supposed to like weed, right? Like, I'm not sure, because that's what I heard. Liberals like weed, and she's a liberal in my opinion, but not anymore like Republicans in my opinion from that thing putting 2,500 people into jail for marijuana. Like, are you on drugs, bro? Do you know what's going on? Or in like major cities, there's zombie zones, literally zombies walking around the area high on fentanyl. Oh, but that's totally fine. Jail the weed people. Jail the weed people. That is insane to me. That is insane to me. Well, I agree with you, because that is insane. MX Joey 628 says she also kept prisoners past their release date for free labor. Bet that story is gone too. The internet is also trying very hard to hide the fact her family owned slaves, and I can see the stories changing already. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's crazy. Crazy. Dan_0707 says she kept inmates beyond their sentences to keep them as cheap labor to fight the fires. She's Montel's girl and Willie Brown's mistress. Expose the facts about her. She's worse than Gavin Newsom. Man, oh man. Lorel El Falco says, thank you. Expose the snakes. And Londrin Citizen says, her and Biden put more black men in chains than chattel slavery. That is just sad. That is just sad. And yeah, Biden is the author of the 94 crime bill, so that is true, creating 3 strikes and whatnot. Voltafore says they also remove the info about her being an escort. Interesting. Just ask Montel Williams about that one. Airy Exotic says Donald Trump literally has felony convictions, and you guys are so stuck on Kamala Harris. Well, to that I say, so do a lot of cannabis people. All have felony convictions as well. And do you think they're all bad guys too? I don't know. Is a felony, is that the definition of a bad person? I mean, in a lot of cases it is, but I don't know if we can just make those type of general statements overall. But nonetheless, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And _Troy Ounce says, she's no good. People in California know the truth about her. And Dr. Ipyuan says, make marijuana illegal again. Oh, that was good. Moving right along into story number 2 in this week's Blunt Wrap-Up of the Blacklist XYZ. Like most sporting organizations, cannabis use, even for medical reasons, is a big no-go for athletes. The Olympics are no exception. While the WADA guidance says that they can use the CBD, cannabidiol, athletes are prohibited from consuming any natural or synthetic cannabinoids in the time leading up to a competition. U.S. sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson was dismissed from the Tokyo Olympics because she tested positive. So again, marijuana is a big non at the Paris Olympics, and it is still illegal in France. So for visitors, it is also a big French no-no. Wink, wink. And cannabis use is illegal in France, but like it in most countries, marijuana continues to be a widely used drug for both adult use purposes and medical reasons. It is not uncommon in the trendy Maris at a football stadiums or even in the famed Avenue des Champs-Élysées to catch a whiff. And with gummies and vapes, it has blended into the Paris scene with hardly anyone noticing or caring. It is reported the country's population are among the largest consumers of cannabis worldwide, and possession of cannabis has been somewhat decriminalized in France, with minor offenders potentially being served with fines. However, prison sentences of up to 1 year are still possible for people found in illegal possession of cannabis, especially those looking to sell. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, technically has no problem with athletes legally having a few drinks, but of course the focus is on performance, so drinks would come at the end of the games. Wow, 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 this Olympic Games, you guys. I think it is so hypocritical that they do not allow athletes to use cannabis. I mean, we had Michael Phelps, we've had Sha'Carri Richardson, so many great athletes use or test positive for cannabis. Some were disqualified, some haven't, or whatnot. And I just think that it's a shame that we're even wasting our time trying to go after these athletes. Like, let these athletes compete. They're not taking anabolic steroids to make their muscles bigger and whatnot and make it unfair. And there's so many rules that have changed within the Olympics at the same time too. But nonetheless, we're not going to get into all of that. We are going to get into your comments. That's right. Because Pat Riot Rinker says, while they let one of the faces of American cannabis consumption carry the torch. Nice. You are so right. And I'm so disappointed that he did not light a blunt up with that torch. Cannabis says that opening ceremony was more disturbing than anything to do with cannabis. JBT 903 says, I smoked hash on my hotel balcony and watched the cops walk around. See what they're saying? Timeless Wayne says, boo, weed equals world peace. Estes _herbs 818.2 says, they're in France. Hash would be more probable. And just like the previous comment, he said he was smoking hash on his balcony. Look at that. Ginger Ravenger 24244 says, it's about time we legalize it across the board. But taking addictive pills is just fine because they are made by Sacklers. Fair point. AZ Night Garden says, spectators will go to jail if they bring weed. What's new? Good point. Very good point, AZ Night Garden. Trees _7 says, wait till 2028. It's legal in the USA. That's right, because the 2028 games will be here in Los Angeles. And, oh, man, that is going to be the first ever Olympic Games that has been in a city with legalized cannabis. So it is definitely going to be interesting. We'll see if that puts any kind of pressure on the IOC to change their policy. But time will tell, and we shall see. And final comment on this one is So One is Shooter says, lame. That's right. It is lame that they are doing this to these athletes and whatnot. But moving right along into story number 3 of this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. That's right, Las Vegas, locked up. The FBI arrested a man in Las Vegas for allegedly extorting and threatening customers and Instagram influencers as part of an online business to block and unlock social media accounts. The 8 News Now investigators have learned that FBI agents arrested Idris Quiba on Monday as part of an investigation that began back in April, records said. Cuba runs a website, unlockedforlife.com, and uses the names Danny and Unlocked, in a document said. Officials said that Cuba is a Moroccan national in the country legally, but is not a U.S. citizen. In a quote, on multiple occasions throughout different means, Cuba has stated if he feels any law enforcement pressure or is arrested and makes bail, he will flee back to Morocco and live like a king, the FBI said. The FBI alleges Cuba outlined an extortion scheme during a podcast in January where he also said he makes more than $600,000 a month through his website, unlockedforlife.com, and its subscribers. During the No Jumper podcast, Cuba described, in quote, locking victims of their social media accounts and then charging the victims to unlock the account, documents said. Unlockedforlife.com, which state records show is based in Henderson, advertises that it can ban or unban social media accounts on Instagram, Snapchat, Telegram, and TikTok, investigators said. Cuba also offered a service to purchase digital tracking and personal information, and the website remained active as of Tuesday. Kiba stated he profits by locking victims out of their social media accounts on Instagram and charges the victims to unlock the account, document said, and the FBI lists several alleged victims in court documents, including unnamed celebrities and influencers. In one case, a social media influencer inquired about purchasing a username from Kiba, and a document said when the influencer did not go through with the purchase, Kiba allegedly threatened the influencer and blocked him and demanded $10,000 to unlock his account. Kiba faces 2 federal counts of interstate communications. Judge Maximiliano Cavalier III ordered Kiba to be detained pending trial. And we have a video to play about this too, you guys.
As police crack down on illegal marijuana grows across Maine, we're learning new details about how exactly they do it. The I-Team's Dan Lamparello is looking at what newly released court documents are revealing, Dan.
Well, Marissa, one of the latest grows was just 950 feet from a middle school in Mexico, Maine, and directly across the street from a daycare. Police and the FBI used a tracking device on a minivan as well as a camera on a pole to break up that operation. Now, last winter, police noticed the smell of marijuana coming from this home at 56 Pine Street there in Mexico. They say they found evidence that the 3-bay garage was used to grow marijuana illegally. That included grass growing in front of the garage doors, meaning no cars were using it, windows that were covered, and trash bags piled high outside, believed to be filled with soil and other growing materials for marijuana. Now, they also say in 3 years, the power bill spiked from around $50 a month to thousands of dollars a month in 2023 and this year. Now, police placed a camera on a pole which showed a minivan in the driveway, and the FBI put a tracking device on that car. Police say their data shows the van made multiple trips to hardware stores to get propane tanks used to heat the grow rooms, and to a casino in New York where it's believed drug money might have changed hands.
Man, oh man, you guys, this guy, I know there has been a lot of talk about this guy all over the internet. It has been really, really interesting to watch and learn. And I had never heard of this guy before or this website, but apparently a lot of you all out there have. And there were a lot of comments that you guys had to share in regards with this. Man, I am just so glad that I never ran across this guy, because I've had plenty of Instagram accounts deleted and whatnot over the years, and I would love to get some of those accounts back, but this is just an unfortunate thing. Well, that people had their accounts, not that this guy actually got arrested. But I also wonder if this guy was some type of an informant or whatnot. I have a whole lot of questions, and I think you guys do too. Because Easy Making It says, go on podcast and snitch yourself for clout. The new government strategy. Best Plant Niagara says invasion of privacy, which is your First Amendment right, and extortion is crazy. Only the government is allowed to do that, bro. You're right. He definitely did snitch on himself for sure. Motivational Heartbreak says, for y'all that don't know, banners run Instagram. They take your account, and if they come across you and see you making any kind of money off that page, they ban it and then extort you. And Motivational Heartbreak also says, following right after that, says, I want all my freaking accounts back. They extorted me for. Shake my effing head. Man, I feel you on that one. Courtney Matthew the Plant says, couldn't help dry snitching on himself. That's right. Some people are just stupid. I can't tell you what to do. Maybe he just felt like he was above the law. M1 Promo says, shady individual. And Ain't Living Well says, we need that Blacklist Cross No Jumper episode out now. I think that would be great to have a Blacklist episode on No Jumper. That would be pretty cool. No Frill Son says, clout's the deadliest drug of them all. You are so true. And Fear of Mid says, good, keep him in there. We don't need or want him freed. Bro tried to threaten me to ban my account if I didn't pay him. He's a jabroni. Hopefully he drops the soap with them horse teeth of his. Well, sorry you had to go through that, Fear of Mids. Crate 38 Tolero says, he tried to finesse my account, Glad his weird ass got. And Camerjoni 1027 says, this dude's a cuck. Have fun getting your ass touched, bud. And Shy Town Canachica says, pretty sure there are a bunch of folks out there that do this. I'm pretty sure there are too. I'm pretty sure he's definitely not the only one. And Must Been Ice Donut says, LMAO, these podcasts are going to be everybody's downfall. Fair point. They very well could be, because they definitely were this guys. Now, let's get into story number 4 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, coming out of Portland from WGME. Police are cracking down on illegal marijuana grows in Maine. One of the latest grows was just 950 feet from a middle school in Mexico and directly across the street from a daycare. Police and the FBI used a tracking device on a minivan and a camera on a pole to break up the operation. Last winter, police noticed the smell of marijuana coming from a home at 56 Pine Street in Mexico. They say they found evidence the 3-bay garage was used to grow marijuana. That included grass growing in front of the garage doors, covered windows, and trash bags piled high outside, believed to be filled with soil and materials used to grow marijuana. They also say in 3 years, the power bill spiked from around $50 a month to $1,000 a month in 2023 and 2024. Police placed a camera on a pole which showed a minivan in the driveway. The FBI put a tracking device on that same minivan, and police say their data shows the van made multiple trips to hardware stores to get propane tanks, used to heat grow rooms, and to a casino in New York, where it's believed drug money changed hands. In June, police got a search warrant of the home and found nearly 500 pot plants in all. At least 2 Chinese men are now charged. In Maine, authorities say there are up to 270 similar operations connected to Chinese crime. Federal officials say grows like this are happening all over the country. Man, oh man, this is happening, and Maine has been getting a lot of attention on this. A lot of that has to do, too, with the senators in Maine have been asking for support from federal agencies to help them combat this, because they do believe that it is plaguing a lot of communities. And so I am not surprised by this at all. But man, you know, the tracker on the van. I mean, and I just really also, too, don't understand why they're saying that they saw grass outside. I mean, whoever is going to leave grass visible outside of their garage is just crazy. They must not think that there's nobody watching them, but you should always feel like someone is always watching you if this is the kind of stuff that you do. But nonetheless, let's go in and see what y'all have to say. Phenotype Farmers, what's up, Phenotype Farmer? I hope you are doing well. Hope everything's been good with you. He says, #trap properly. And the Vertical Boys say 1,000 feet is a legal distance. 50 feet is just shy. Smack myself in the face, bro. I feel you, man. I feel you. Roan Dog says, this really going to confuse some people that don't know there's a Mexico in Maine. You are so right about that. And that's why we made sure to post this comment so people knew that. High Peaks MI says the FBI for a garage grow is kind of wild, especially when it's legal in Maine. Everyone agrees they should be focusing on hard drugs or at least just giant grows over thousands of plants. Yeah, but, you know, they want to go for the easy things, and, you know, they want to make sure they go home safe and don't have a lot of altercations and whatnot, and, you know, it's kind of crazy like that. To which Bio Builder Leo responds to High Peaks MI, says the FBI is involved because there is a massive evidence of Chinese crime syndicates and potentially even government officials involved in these illegal grows all around the country, not just Maine or this small town in Maine. And that is true. There are a lot of international crime rings that are doing a lot of this, not just Chinese, but other races and nationalities as well. So this is a big problem that is happening all around the country. Just look at Oklahoma. Miss_Y_Maine says, don't forget the community cleanups in Sanford. 14,000 needles alone. Waterville, Portland, Augusta, Biddleford, etc., etc. We have a real epidemic on our streets, even in Maine. Portland passes out 100-count syringe packs and boof kits, but let's worry about a plant. The amount of fentanyl seized is minuscule compared to a plant seized off the street. That should bother people, but let's try to worry about a plant. So right. So right, Miss Y, Maine. Dusty_Maker says, FBI for 500 plants. I agree. It's kind of a big stretch, but whatever. I mean, it's probably because, like he said, some international characters operating in America. Trikey_Nee says, all that money and they slacked on filters. Shake my head. Pedro I. Picasa says, Bubba Pax knocked again. You are so good with that. That is such a great comment. Bubba Pax knocked again. That is so good. Yoda X Piss says, they should prioritize foreign national grows over domestic. Stop buying Chinese-grown weed and corporate cannabis and make cannabis great again. I'm down with the last part for sure. Dirt Dog _Dury says, they getting everyone with the cameras on poles. That's how I got. Ouch. The notorious Sudic THC says, those Chinese Mexicans are wild. That is pretty funny, bro. Pretty funny, those Chinese Mexicans. Cali _Dope Crew says, crack down on the crooked policies that don't allow money to be made in the legal space, pushing the real operators to stay in the black market. True. And Gordon Parks 454 says, you telling me there's Asians with a lot of cash living in the woods of Maine? Interesting. And Totes 109 says, if they would put this much effort into finding meth houses and child trafficking victims, this world would be such a better place. I couldn't agree with you more. I could not agree with that statement more. They need to put way more resources into that. And moving right along into our fifth story in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist, XYZ, coming out of Buffalo, New York, WKBW says, 300 pounds of marijuana. That's what an Erie County sheriff found when he pulled over an Oregon man on the Thruway in West Seneca Monday night. The marijuana was vacuum sealed and in 1 pound bags and was stashed inside 9 garbage bags in the back of her pickup truck. Chief of Detectives DJ Gravenville of the Erie County Sheriff's Office Narcotics and Intelligence Unit said the marijuana was likely headed to illegal dispensaries that have opened up across the western New York. He said the illegal operations are popping up all over the place, causing a nuisance to various communities. That's despite 15 legal dispensaries opening in the last year in the Buffalo-Niagara region. In a quote, this is not a lot of marijuana. We don't come across this very often, Granville told me as he showed me the pile they seized. He said money is the motivating factor and there's money to be made, hand over fist, Granville said. While some may think buying and selling marijuana is harmless, he says it's anything but. In a quote, says, you'll see these violent robberies, some that we don't even hear about because what are you going to report? That
This is a lot of marijuana. We don't come across this very often.
Chief DJ Granville of the Erie County Sheriff's Office is talking about all of this. 300 pounds of marijuana seized during a traffic stop Monday night on the Thruway in West Seneca.
This person with her 4 dogs inside the vehicle drove from Oregon to, West Seneca, New York, or Erie County.
A deputy pulled the driver over and found 9 giant garbage bags packed with pot inside the cab of her pickup.
One of these bags is a pound of marijuana, and these pounds go for anywhere between $500 and $1,000, and maybe a little more than that, because this is very high-grade marijuana. This is outdoor marijuana that was tended to and cared for.
27-year-old Jessica Jones is charged with a felony for having well over 10 pounds of cannabis.
We believe this marijuana was destined for these illegal marijuana shops that are popping up all over the place, causing a nuisance to various communities.
Well, this is interesting because this is the first time that I've heard some law enforcement actually give some semi-realistic valuations on top of be semi-realistic with what is actually going on. And the fact that he's being real and said they've closed some stores and he's not propping it up like New York has closed all the stores that they have closed, because from what we hear, a lot of them have reopened or whatnot. So this is interesting. He also cites the fact that there's only about 15 stores even open up in that region that are actually licensed stores. I think that is super, super, super interesting. But enough of what I think about this. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Propane_official says, half a rap job. That's funny, bro. Chisa Cake says, at least their estimates were reasonable. You are totally right. I totally agree with that. Prince 303 says, bruh said outdoor high grade. Bruh could sell depths. It did give kind of that feel, huh? It did. You could kind of see him at a sesh, just, you know what I'm saying? Hey, bro, I got all this work. Daniel_Farmington says, I got a mole for you to that whack right there. Andrew Solo 93 says, bald homie is for sure a broker. He could be a good broker, right? I feel you. Pistol Pete 918 says, high grade outdoor laughy faces. I thought that was pretty funny too, bro. That is pretty good. Dubavelli says 13 million worth of weed they would normally say. You are so right. So right. And I was so shocked that they gave some sort of a realistic valuation. Samba.boy.farm says THCA. That's right. That's what the driver should have said they had in the car. It was all THCA. Texas Bluntman says, shows how bad you suck at your job. Also, the war on drugs is lost. Fair point. The real Georgie Cush says, wow, a DA that knows his weed. All right, finally. Lakashmi_high culture says, tended for and cared for. Haha, that part. At least he's acknowledging it's a living thing. True that. The real Sheesh backup page says, stop bringing that Oregon huff to New York. I feel you, bro. I feel you. But if y'all in New York didn't keep on buying it, people wouldn't bring it out there. And Carly Stort says, we are going to make sure we violently rob you so you don't get violently robbed. That's pretty good. 70-0 says, looks like 30 units, but okay. I would agree with you on that. It does not look like 300 on the table. Longtime 239 says, should have had your COAs. That's right. Totally. Then you could have proved it was THCA. And Chief Tansmith says, very high level marijuana. This was grown outdoors. Man. Shout out to the outdoor farmers out there. Man. Now let's get right into our sixth and final story in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. And the quote says, Sheriff says, I swear it's a THCA beaver, you guys. That's right. A routine traffic stop in Texas turned out to be a first for officers when they discovered drugs inside Buc-ee's beaver plushies. That's right. Buc-ee's beaver plushies, you guys. According to the Fayette County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Cody Williams pulled over a San Antonio man around 1 a.m. on Wednesday on Interstate 10 after the driver consented to a search of the vehicle. Williams recognized the smell of marijuana, tracing the smell to Buc-ee's beaver plushies in the back seat. Williams felt packaging inside and noticed they had been restitched. Marijuana and ecstasy were found hidden inside the plushies, and the driver, identified as 47-year-old Legene Davis Jr., said he was having chest pain. An emergency medical team was called to the vehicle and transported Davis to a local hospital, and officials report the drugs were seized from the vehicle and a warrant will be issued for Davis's arrest. Buc-ee's is a Texas-based convenience store chain with a beaver as the mascot. Its iconic beaver merchandise is widely recognizable in the Lone Star State. And in June, Buc-ee's opened the world's largest traveling center in Lilling. Man, oh man, big old Texas. Man, oh man, Buc-ee the beaver. This is too funny. This guy is just stuffing stuffed animals full of drugs. And oh man, I bet no wonder his heart stopped when he got caught with all that weed and all those ecstasy pills. Of course, that's going to make your heart stop. But I'm sure he went to the hospital and police had him handcuffed while he was in there and then took him into custody afterwards. But man, oh man, what a catch for these guys. But let's go into the final comments for you guys, see what y'all have to say. Texas_Pacific_AG says, told my homies there's crack in the beaver nuggets and nobody believed me. That is pretty funny, bro. Cool Wildman _ oh yeah says, real X, real triple stack E. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as real triple stack E because they're just pills and whatnot, and you're not going to have a triple stack. There's so much bonding agent, so much whatever. Like, it's triple stack is just something people try to tell you to charge you more. But nonetheless, Immersive Town RN says, hiding the work in some plushies is wild. Or is it? DJ's Tenny says, nice beaver. Nice beaver, you guys. That's pretty good. Beauty Bill 13 Ender says, now that's what I like about Texas. Cloud9 Chronicles says, no wonder them things were so addicting. So funny, you guys. So funny. And Medusa Farm says, I think my ex had a THCA beaver. That's pretty funny. Benny1415 says, X stuffed in Buc-ee's plushie is a mythic pool. And finally, Alexander Padgett says, Buc-ee. That might be the funniest one of the day. Thank you all for tuning into this week's weekend episode of the blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and make sure to tune in to High at 9 News every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast for America's #1 daily cannabis news show, High at 9 News, as well as continue to comment on all of the posts the Blacklist XYZ and the Blacklist post throughout the week for your chance to be featured on next week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop a comment down below with what you think about this weekend's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Brought to you by High at 9 News and Cloud Media Partners, and have an amazing and safe weekend, everyone.